The air in the parking garage was cold, heavy with the smell of damp concrete and gasoline. Each footstep David took echoed off the walls, a lonely drumbeat, counting down to a moment that could shatter his world. His heart pounded against his ribs, a frantic prisoner inside his chest. In the duffel bag, stacks of cut paper sat beneath a thin layer of real currency, a GPS tracker nestled deep inside. The instructions had been chillingly precise. Level 4, Sector G. Come alone. Any deviation, and the deal was off, and the consequences, they promised, would be irreversible. A sedan with tinted windows slid silently into the adjacent space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, 2 doors opened. The men who emerged were not who he expected. They were built like professional enforcers, their faces devoid of emotion, their movements economical and grim. They were here for business. One stayed by the car, a silent, imposing statue. The other walked toward David. "The bag," the man said, his voice flat, as David held it out with a trembling hand. The man didn't just reach for the money. He gestured toward the open rear door of the sedan. "Get in. We're going for a ride. The boss wants to meet you." This wasn't a collection. It was an abduction. The demand for a face-to-face meeting had been a lie. They weren't just taking his money. They were planning on taking him. In that split second, the fear of financial ruin was eclipsed by the raw, primal terror of imminent physical harm. He was about to be taken against his will, a pawn in a game whose rules were changing by the second. As the man's hand clamped down on his shoulder, a signal went out. The silent garage exploded into a chaos of screeching tires and shouted commands as unmarked cars swarmed the sector. The game was over. My name is James Smith. After witnessing how professional predators destroy innocent lives across America, I decided to fight back. This channel is a collection of thousands of real cases, hidden tactics, and voices of victims who were silenced. I'm here to be your shield in the digital world. Because the best way to stop a scammer is to know their next move before they make it. Love is blind. Behind every sweet message is a bitter truth. Let's dive into the dark side of modern romance. Our story begins not in that terrifying parking garage, but 30 years earlier. For 3 decades, David and Eleanor had meticulously constructed a life others only dream of. He was a high-profile urban developer, his name synonymous with the ambitious skyscrapers that reshaped the city skyline. She was a powerhouse in the nonprofit world, a community pillar whose name was on the donor walls of hospitals and universities. Their marriage was a fortress, built on a foundation of shared history, mutual respect, and 2 successful children who had recently left for college. They were a unit, intelligent, financially astute, and fiercely private. They weren't the type of people who fell for scams. They read the news. They managed their own wealth. They were, for all intents and purposes, untouchable. But predators, the truly sophisticated ones, don't hunt the careless or the naive. They hunt for those who have everything to lose. Because a sterling reputation, a lifetime of success, and a legacy of public trust aren't just assets. In the wrong hands, they are the perfect leverage for extortion. The very things that made David and Eleanor's life so enviable were about to be weaponized against them. The sharks were in the water, and they could smell success from a mile away. It started, as it so often does, with a whisper, a single, anonymous letter that arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between a charity gala invitation and an architectural magazine. No menacing cut-and-paste lettering, just neatly typed lines on plain white paper. The message inside was a work of fiction, but was a masterpiece of malevolent creativity. A nameless woman claimed she and David were involved in an intense affair. She wove a tapestry of lies, describing secret meetings in hotel bars he'd never visited and late-night calls he'd never made. The details were so specific, so plausible, that they sent a chill down his spine. She claimed to have proof, doctored photos, fabricated emails, falsified text chains. The kind of manufactured evidence that could detonate his 30-year marriage and vaporize his professional standing overnight. She said she didn't want to ruin his life. A classic line. She just needed help. A reasonable offer would make all of it. The lies, the proof, the threat disappear. The first demand was almost insulting in its simplicity. $10,000. David's reaction wasn't the indignation, of an innocent man. It was a cold, paralyzing fear of a man with everything to lose. He had never been unfaithful. There was no mistress, but in the court of public opinion, especially in our cancel culture-obsessed world, a lie travels faster than the truth. He pictured the letter in Eleanor's hands. He imagined the hushed conversations among his clients and board members. The core principle of extortion is that the threat doesn't need to be real. It just needs to feel real. Blinded by a toxic cocktail of panic and shame, he made the first catastrophic mistake. He decided to handle it alone. Scammers rely on this. They bank on the victim's embarrassment being a more powerful force than their rationality. Convinced he could buy his way out of this nightmare, he followed the cryptic instructions, converting the cash into cryptocurrency and sending it into the digital void. For a week, there was silence. He breathed. He thought he'd bought peace. He was wrong. He had just confirmed he was a willing customer. The second demand arrived via an encrypted email. The tone had changed. It was no longer a plea. It was a command. "You think we are amateurs," it began. The sender now claimed to be part of a global organization that had him under complete surveillance. As proof, they attached a grainy, long-lens photo of Eleanor getting groceries. They peppered the message with technical jargon, zero-click spyware, remote access Trojans, designed to create an illusion of omnipotence. The demand leaped to $75,000. This is a textbook playbook of modern, organized extortion syndicates. They test the waters with a small sum. Once you pay, you're not a victim anymore. You're an asset. For the next 3 months, David was dragged into a masterclass of psychological warfare. They sent messages detailing private conversations he'd had, information scraped from public records and social media, creating a terrifying feedback loop that made him feel like the walls had ears. The demand spiraled with terrifying speed. $250,000 to prevent an AI-generated deepfake video, depicting him in a compromising business deal, from being sent to every journalist in the city. In an era of synthetic media, how could he ever prove it was fake? Another $500,000 to stop a meticulously forged dossier detailing fake financial crimes and illegal financial movement from being leaked to federal regulators. Each payment was a desperate gamble, a prayer that this would be the last. He was liquidating retirement accounts, taking out high-interest personal loans, digging a financial grave while trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. Rational thought becomes impossible under the weight of constant manufacturer anxiety. He was a ghost in his own life. His work suffered. Every evening with Eleanor was an exercise in strained smiles and hollow conversation, the secret of toxic presence in the room. The total bled past $1 million. He was isolated, terrified, and financially shattered. That's when the syndicate went for the final blow. The new demand was for another $400,000, bringing the grand total to a staggering $1.2 million. But this time, they didn't want crypto. They wanted cash. And they wanted to meet in person. The demand for a physical meeting was the breaking point. For David, the abstract terror of financial ruin was suddenly replaced by the very real threat of physical danger. The fear of what waited in that parking garage finally became greater than the fear of the truth. Shaking, he walked into the living room, sat down across from Eleanor and confessed everything. Her reaction wasn't the anger he had dreaded for months. It was a cold, steely clarity. She didn't see a man who had betrayed her. She saw a man who had been systematically dismantled by professional predators. Her strength became his. Together, they made the one call he should have made from the very beginning. They called the police, law enforcement, including specialists from the FBI's cybercrime division, recognized the signature immediately. This wasn't a lone wolf. This was the work of a sophisticated international syndicate that uses a network of local collectors to handle the high-risk, on-the-ground work while the masterminds remain untouchable overseas. The sting operation was set into motion. David, wire for sound and shadowed by dozens of tactical officers, agreed to the meeting. The trap was set for the encounter that opened our story, transforming a victim in debate and turning the tables on a faceless criminal empire. The two men who were arrested that day were disposable cogs, the lowest rung on a ladder that stretched across continents. But they were the first thread that would allow investigators to begin pulling apart a vast, brutal network responsible for countless similar cases. The immediate danger to David was over, but the war was far from won. He and Eleanor lost over $1 million, a catastrophic sum they will likely never recover. The psychological scars, the feeling of violation, and the memory of the terror will linger for years. But through the fire, their 30-year partnership was not consumed. The crisis that was designed to tear them apart only forged them into something stronger. The couriers were prosecuted, but the architects of the scam, likely sitting behind screens thousands of miles away, remain at large, already hunting for their next target. This is the stark reality of modern crime. It's a global, tech-powered, and ruthlessly efficient industry that preys on our most human fears: the loss of love, the loss of reputation, and the loss of security. So, what is the shield in this new digital war? First, never, ever let fear bully you into silence. If you are targeted by an extortion attempt, do not respond and do not pay. Paying them a dime is like bleeding in front of a shark. It only guarantees they'll come back for more. It buys you a permanent spot on their verified target list. Preserve all the evidence, block them, and immediately report it to law enforcement. Most importantly, tell someone you trust. Shame is the extortionist's primary weapon. The moment you drag their threats into the light, you strip them of their power. If this story helps just one person recognize the playbook and avoid the nightmare David endured, it has served its purpose. Subscribe to the Romance Scam Podcast, because knowing their next move is your best defense.